I'm Dr. John, and this is your Maintenance Minute. Today we're going to talk about documentation. I get a lot of messages and a lot of folks ask in classes that I teach, and when I'm out contracting and consulting, they ask, John, how do we get our people to document on the work order or in the work package exactly what's going on? Let me see if I can give you what I think is a very helpful tip, and it's a trick that I found that's very successful, and I think that it'll work for you too. First of all, I want to point out that the SMRP body of knowledge gives us direction. It's one of those thou shalt do this. The body of knowledge says that we will require the following documentation. We're going to require the technician to document how they found it. That is, how the equipment was when they got there. Essentially, as you think about things that they could measure, what was the temperature, what was the tension, what was the condition of the frame or the wearing, or how did they find it? Not they found it broke, but they found it in some measurable way. And then the body of knowledge tells us thou shalt also instruct technicians to document what they did, sort of how you found it and what you did. I've written down, I think that kind of completes the puzzle. It's not an SMRP necessarily, but I think we also need to infer from the language that they also need to document how they left it. Again, they found it in a measurable state of disrepair or distress. Again, something they could measure and document. How they corrected it, the parts they used, the time they used, the method that they used, and then how they left it. This is very helpful if there's some measurement up here. Also, it can be the same measurement down here. It was not torqued properly, it was not tensioned properly, I torqued it, I tensioned it, it wasn't reading properly, now it is reading properly. You can see that would be really solid documentation. If I don't have a practice of insisting essentially documentation, I'm going to end up with 2-year history of motor broke, motor fixed, and it's really hard to do any analysis there. It's also really important that we have a responsibility, and it's actually pointed out in some ISO documents, that says that leadership has a responsibility to determine what we're going to measure, how we're going to measure, and here's the kicker, what we're going to do with it. And I think that's the important part we can take from this conversation on documentation. The people that we're asking to document things have got to see that we're using their documentation to make data-driven decisions. The old, what to measure, how to measure, and what you're going to do with it. That's our responsibility. So what I consult with and counsel my clients to do, and in my classes I teach this too, find every reason in the world to get your people together, the people that have been documenting things, to get them together around a small table, lay out the documentation that they've been generating, and work with them and have them help you make data-driven decisions. Here's what they're going to find. They're going to find that the data they've been generating is not very useful. And my hope is, and my belief is, that once they see that there's a real use for this data, and we're not just taking this to beat them over the head with, but we're actually taking the data to make, again, business-driven decisions. That's what we're required to do. I think that they're going to find that their information that they're documenting has a specific use. They're being asked to come in and sort of use the information they've been collected to help us make us this sense of inclusion, asking people what they think, get them involved in the use of their documentation. I think that you will find that to be very helpful, and I think you'll find that it actually works. I'm Dr. John. This has been your Maintenance Minute.